Embarrassing option. The Defense Union says negotiating with DRC rebels for SANDF exit is probably the way out. Story by Jonasei Moromo. In an interview with IOL, National Secretary of the SA National Defense Union, SANDF, advocate Pikkie Greeff, stated that although his union does not make demands on operational matters, there are few options available if the SANDF is to be removed from the troubled, mineral-rich country. Calls have been growing in South Africa for the withdrawal of SA National Defense Force, SANDF, members stationed in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, due to the growing number of casualties accumulating in the Central African country. We are unable to make requests or make choices regarding operational matters. Those decisions must be made by the Commander-in-Chief, President Cyril Ramaphosa, the command structure, and the defense force. It makes sense that people would want the soldiers to go home so they are safe, but it's also important to consider the practical aspects of the situation. As they say, we are currently between the devil and the blue sea. We are unable to go and quickly retrieve our members by air because we are isolated there. We don't currently have the air capabilities to lift people out of any location, so we wouldn't try anything right now. According to Greeff, a negotiated withdrawal of South African forces is currently the most sensible course of action. You inform the rebels that we will stop fighting, that we would like to be guaranteed passage, and that we want to depart. At this point, that appears to be the only choice, which is quite embarrassing, he remarked. I do not believe that a military or speedy extraction is an option at this time. We just lack the capacity to complete it swiftly and cleanly. In days of combat, the SANDF soldiers, who were stationed as part of the Southern African Development Community, SADC, mission in the DRC SAMIDRC, stopped the rebel group from moving closer to Goma, the North Kivu province capital. The M23 rebels, however, asserted that they had taken control of Goma on Monday. Among other things, a recent IOL item stated that Angie Motshekga, the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, returned to South Africa this week after traveling to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, to assess the circumstances of SANDF personnel on a peacekeeping mission. Motshekga's journey to the sizable nation in Central Africa began on Wednesday and will conclude on Saturday, per an IOL piece from last week. In a horrifying uptick in violence in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, IOL also reports that 9 SANDF members were killed and numerous more soldiers were injured on Thursday and Friday while serving in Sake. The situation described in the story highlights several critical issues regarding the South African National Defense Forces, SANDF, deployment in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, leading to casualties among the troops. To address the situation and avoid further loss of life, the government and military leadership should have taken the following steps. 1. Better planning and risk assessment. Proactive risk management. The government should have conducted a thorough risk assessment before deploying SANDF personnel to the DRC. This would involve evaluating the security situation, the strength and capabilities of the rebel forces, such as M23, and the potential for escalation. Knowing that the DRC has a volatile security environment, the SANDF should have been better prepared for such risks. Intelligence gathering. Intelligence on the movements and strategies of rebel groups should have been more robust. If there had been clearer intelligence on the growing threat of the M23 rebels, the government could have made a more informed decision on whether to send troops into such a high-risk environment or if alternative diplomatic or peacekeeping measures could have been pursued. 2. Enhanced military capabilities. Air mobility and extraction. As highlighted by the SA National Defense Union, SANDF, spokesperson, the SANDF lacks airlift capabilities to quickly evacuate personnel from dangerous zones. This is a critical gap that should have been addressed before deploying troops to such a volatile area. The government should have ensured that the SANDF had sufficient resources, such as helicopters and planes, to evacuate soldiers in emergencies. Operational support. The SANDF should have been equipped with better support systems, including air surveillance, advanced communication, and logistical capabilities, to enhance their operational safety and effectiveness in such a hostile environment. 3. Clear strategic objectives and exit plans. Clear mission goals. The government should have established clear and achievable objectives for the SANDF's peacekeeping mission in the DRC. Without clear goals, the mission risks becoming prolonged and unclear, leading to unnecessary casualties. A clear definition of success and a timeline for withdrawal would have allowed for better planning and fewer unexpected losses. Exit strategy. It is evident that the SANDF was caught in a precarious situation without a solid exit strategy. The government should have developed a well-defined plan for withdrawal in the event of worsening conditions. This plan should have included negotiated terms for safe passage, as suggested by Greeff, as well as contingency plans for extracting personnel if the situation escalated. 4. Diplomatic efforts and regional cooperation. Engagement with regional stakeholders. The South African government should have engaged more deeply with regional and international partners to ensure the safety of its troops. This could include better coordination with the Southern African Development Community, SADC, the United Nations, and other regional powers to ensure a unified approach to peacekeeping in the DRC. Negotiation with rebels. While it is described as embarrassing, negotiating with the rebels, as suggested by Greeff, could have been a more viable option in this situation. The government should have considered diplomatic engagement with rebel groups, possibly involving a third party or peacekeeping mediator, to secure safe passage for the SANDF troops. This approach would have been preferable to a prolonged military engagement that risked further casualties. 5. Transparency and accountability. Communication with the public. The government should have been more transparent about the risks and challenges of the mission from the start. Public awareness of the potential dangers could have led to better support for the mission or, if necessary, a more informed debate about withdrawal. Accountability for casualties. The government and military leadership should be held accountable for the safety of their troops. After the casualties, there should have been a full investigation into the circumstances that led to the deaths and injuries of SANDF personnel, and steps should have been taken to prevent similar incidents in the future. 6. Humanitarian considerations. Protection of troops' welfare. The welfare of the soldiers should have been prioritized. This includes not only physical safety, but also mental health support. The government should have ensured that SANDF personnel were well prepared for the emotional and psychological toll of operating in such a hostile environment. Engagement with local communities. The SANDF should have had stronger ties with local communities and regional peacekeepers to better understand the local dynamics and mitigate risks. Collaboration with local stakeholders could have provided intelligence and assistance in securing areas of operation. Conclusion. The tragic loss of SANDF personnel in the DRC could have been avoided through a combination of better planning, enhanced military capabilities, clearer strategic objectives, and a more proactive diplomatic approach. The government must learn from this experience and ensure that future peacekeeping missions are better supported, both in terms of resources and strategic foresight. The idea of negotiating with rebels for a safe withdrawal, though seen as embarrassing, may have been the most pragmatic option in this particular scenario to prevent further casualties.